June 18, 1815. Dawn broke over a muddy field in Belgium. The air was thick with tension. This was not just another battle. The fate of Europe hung in the balance. The Battle of Waterloo was about to begin. Napoleon Bonaparte was a force of nature. His name alone evoked images of grand battles and sweeping victories. Born on the island of Corsica, he rose through the ranks of the French military with unparalleled speed and determination. His ambition knew no bounds, and his strategic mind was always several steps ahead of his adversaries. Short and stocky, his presence commanded respect. Despite his relatively small stature, he had an aura that made him seem larger than life. His piercing eyes and confident demeanor could rally his troops even in the direst of circumstances. Napoleon's ability to inspire loyalty and courage in his men was one of his greatest assets. He was known for his quick thinking and bold attacks. His strategies often caught his enemies off guard, leading to swift and decisive victories. Whether it was a surprise maneuver or a daring frontal assault, Napoleon's tactics were always innovative and effective. His campaigns across Europe reshaped the continent and left an indelible mark on history. His soldiers were inspired by his confidence and charisma. They believed in his vision and were willing to follow him to the ends of the earth. Napoleon's speeches before battle were legendary, filled with passion and conviction. He had a unique ability to connect with his men, making them feel like they were part of something greater than themselves. The Duke of Wellington was a stark contrast. Born Arthur Wellesley, he came from a noble background and was groomed for leadership from a young age. His demeanor was calm and composed, a reflection of his aristocratic upbringing. While Napoleon was fiery and impulsive, Wellington was measured and deliberate. Tall and aristocratic, he was calm and collected. His presence exuded a quiet confidence that reassured his troops. Wellington's leadership style was more reserved, but no less effective. He believed in leading by example and maintaining a disciplined and orderly command. Wellington was a master of defense. He understood the importance of preparation and fortification. His defensive strategies were meticulous, often turning the tide of battle in his favor. Wellington's ability to anticipate his enemy's moves and counter them with precision made him a formidable opponent. He chose his battles carefully and planned every move. Unlike Napoleon, who often sought out confrontation, Wellington preferred to wait for the right moment to strike. His patience and strategic foresight were key to his many victories. Every decision was calculated, every maneuver planned with the utmost care. His troops were disciplined and well-trained. Wellington instilled a sense of duty and professionalism in his men. They were drilled to perfection, ready to execute his orders with precision. The discipline and training of Wellington's army were unmatched, making them a formidable force on the battlefield. Napoleon's plan was simple but daring. He wanted to crush Wellington's army before the Prussians, their allies, could arrive. He would use his superior numbers and artillery to overwhelm the British. Wellington, outnumbered, chose to fight a defensive battle. He positioned his troops along a ridge, using hills and buildings for cover. He knew the longer he held on, the better his chances of victory. The battlefield was a patchwork of fields and roads. Heavy rain the previous night had turned the ground into thick mud. This would slow down movements and make it difficult to maneuver cannons. The weather was unpredictable. Periods of sunshine were interrupted by heavy showers. The rain and mud would play a crucial role in the battle, hindering both sides. The battle began with a thunderous French artillery barrage. Cannons roared, sending showers of earth and shrapnel into the air. French infantry then advanced in waves, attempting to dislodge the British from their positions. The British stood firm, their muskets blazing. Wellington moved his troops strategically, reinforcing positions under heavy attack. The fighting was fierce and bloody, with casualties mounting on both sides. One of the key positions in the Battle of Waterloo was Hougoumont Farm, a fortified farmhouse held by the British. This location was not just a simple farmhouse, it was a strategic stronghold that played a crucial role in the defence line of the Duke of Wellington's army. The British soldiers, aware of its importance, fortified it heavily, turning it into a near impenetrable bastion. Napoleon, the brilliant French military leader, believed that capturing Hougoumont would significantly weaken Wellington's line and potentially turn the tide of the battle in his favour. He saw it as a linchpin that, if removed, would cause the entire British defence to collapse. His strategy was meticulous, and he was determined to break through this critical point. He launched repeated, relentless attacks against the farmhouse, sending wave after wave of French soldiers to storm the defences. The British defenders, however, were resolute. They repelled each assault with fierce determination, holding their ground despite the overwhelming pressure. The fighting was intense, with both sides suffering heavy casualties. The battle for Hougoumont raged for hours, becoming one of the most fiercely contested engagements of the entire Battle of Waterloo. The chaos and carnage were unimaginable, with soldiers locked in brutal combat, fighting for every inch of ground. The air was thick with smoke and the cries of the wounded, a testament to the ferocity of the struggle. It was a microcosm of the larger battle, a brutal and bloody struggle for every inch of ground. The hand-to-hand combat was particularly savage, with soldiers using bayonets, swords, and even their bare hands to fight off their enemies. The terrain itself became a battlefield, with every corner and crevice turning into a potential point of conflict. The courage and determination of the soldiers on both sides was remarkable. Despite the exhaustion and the constant threat of death, they continued to fight with unwavering resolve. Their bravery was a testament to their commitment to their respective causes, and their actions at Hougoumont would be remembered as a symbol of heroism and sacrifice in one of history's most significant battles. By midday, the battle had reached a stalemate. Napoleon's initial assaults had been costly and unsuccessful. Wellington's defences were holding, but his army was exhausted and depleted. A brief lull fell over the battlefield. Smoke hung heavy in the air, obscuring the sun. The silence was broken only by the groans of the wounded and the cries of dying horses. Unbeknownst to Napoleon, Prussian reinforcements were approaching. Wellington had been in communication with the Prussian commander, Field Marshal Blucher, and knew help was on the way. The arrival of the Prussians would be a turning point in the battle. It would tip the balance of power in favour of the Allies and spell trouble for Napoleon. As the afternoon wore on, Napoleon noticed fresh enemy troops arriving on the battlefield. The sun was beginning to dip, casting long shadows over the war-torn landscape. The air was thick with the smell of gunpowder and the cries of the wounded. Napoleon, ever the keen observer, squinted through his spyglass, his heart sinking as he recognized the uniforms of the approaching soldiers. They were Prussians, and their presence threatened his right flank. The Prussian army, led by General Blucher, had managed to regroup and march to the aid of Wellington. Their disciplined ranks moved with a sense of purpose, their bayonets glinting menacingly in the fading light. Napoleon knew that if he didn't act swiftly, his entire strategy could unravel. He had to act quickly to counter this new threat. With a sense of urgency, he called for his trusted commanders, issuing rapid orders to reposition his forces. His mind raced through the possibilities, weighing the risks and rewards of each potential move. The stakes had never been higher, and the fate of his empire hung in the balance. Napoleon sent a portion of his army to hold back the Prussians. These troops, though weary from the day's fighting, moved with determination, knowing the critical role they played in the unfolding drama. They dug in, forming defensive lines ready to face the oncoming Prussian assault. The clash of steel and the roar of cannons filled the air as the two forces collided. This weakened his main attack against Wellington. The soldiers who remained to face the British found themselves stretched thin, their lines faltering under the relentless pressure. The once cohesive units began to show signs of strain, their resolve tested by the ferocity of the battle. Napoleon's grand plan was teetering on the edge of collapse. The Duke of Wellington, seeing an opportunity, prepared to launch a counter-offensive. He had been waiting for this moment, his keen tactical mind recognizing the shift in momentum. With calm precision, he directed his officers to ready their men, the British troops steeling themselves for the decisive push. The air was electric with anticipation, each soldier aware that the coming moments would determine the outcome of the battle. The stage was set for the final decisive clash. Both sides knew that the next few hours would be crucial. The battlefield, now a chaotic tapestry of smoke, fire and human struggle, was poised on the brink of a historic turning point. As the two great armies prepared to meet in a final desperate struggle, the fate of Europe hung in the balance, waiting to be decided by the courage and resolve of the men who fought that day.